anxious to step through the gate again, Major?
Yes, I am.
We all are.
Would you like us to bring back anything special?
No thanks.
Groceries, new outfit, flatware?
No, just yourselves in one piece, please. Dial it up. You safe.
Welcome to the Jumping Puddles podcast. Be sure to listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and or YouTube. And follow us at Jumping Puddles Podcast on Tumblr and Instagram, and Jumping Pud Pod on Twitter. Hi, I'm Sam, and with me are my fellow co-hosts, Tor and Ash.
Hello!
Hi! And this week we're talking about the episode Condemned. Shepard's team meets a technologically advanced people, the Elysians, who keep their Stargate on a prison island to keep the Wraith satisfied. On their way back to Atlantis, the jumper is shut down and the team crash lands on the island. In order to negotiate a treaty and in search for her people, Weir visits the planet and discovers just how far the Elysians' government would go to keep the society safe from the Wraith.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun.
So the first thing I wrote down was, if I remember this episode correctly, it sucks.
oh no!
And did you remember correctly?
I did.
Oh no!
Oh, yay!
Wow. That was no one broke their noggin writing this episode, huh? Just zero creativity in the writer's room.
Yeah, in the audio commentary, a lot of the stuff they said was like, yeah, this is like in the movie, I don't know, or in this movie, or in that movie. So they were just copying. I mean, I guess at some point you should just start. It's hard to come up with something new. But in this, I think in this episode, especially, it was very, I don't know, just smashing together a few prison movies and taking all the elements and then putting a Stargate there, and that's it.
Yeah, there was just this. Okay, here's the thing. I feel like you can kind of separate this episode, or at least in my mind, you can separate it into two parts, right? You can kind of separate it by character dynamics and character work, which I think is something that I actually think the episode does really well, especially considering this is the first mission with Ronon, so you were getting all these new dynamics and how does he fit? How does John, how does he rebel against John? How does John treat him as his new underling, or his new guy on his team, So that stuff is separate from what I'm bashing about the episode, which is just the story, and just the story is just horrendous, I think, in my opinion. I'm so sure if we sat here for less than 10 minutes, we can make a better episode.
Yeah. I also really like the team or character moments. I thought that was one of the good things. And also, I thought it was interesting because we got a bit of an insight into Wraith culture, or at least some part of it. It also showed it as the Wraith are not just one homogeneous mass, but there are individuals who act differently. We learned that Wraith can indeed eat food similar to the way we do, but apparently it doesn't sustain them, so they still need to feed. And I thought that was really interesting, and also that some Wraith actually make deals with humans with their food source. So I really like that. But in the same way that we learn more about the Wraith, they also, I feel in this episode, we talked about this before, that the Wraith slowly become less menacing. And I think it starts a bit here, because I noticed the Wraith doesn't have his cool voice this time. you know, they have this echoey, kind of distorted voice usually, and it's not that prominent in this episode. He doesn't have this. It's just his voice, a bit deeper, maybe a little bit distorted, but not that much. And was like, where's your voice? What happened?
Yeah. I think you bring a really good point. That's something I definitely wanted to mention about the whole, like, the tidbits of Wraith culture that we get. And I think it's so interesting that, like, it kind of goes back to our Jumping Puddles canon, which obviously is not entirely original, right? It's based off of the show, clearly. But I know we kind of talked about having, like, sort of, like, how do the factions work within Wraith cultures, right? And I think this is so interesting because the way that, like, he was, like making deals and stuff, it was like, yeah, he was an individual Wraith in charge of, like, is he just in charge of this planet, or is he in charge of this whole sector? Did he make this deal with a bunch of different planets, and he just kind of been hopping around and, like, you know, sampling the cuisine of every planet? And so I think some of it was just so, like, that stuff, like the last, like, 10 minute, or like that one scene with the Wraith talking with the guy, was so fascinating just for, like, all of the new information we get. And I think it sucks because, again, there's just a better episode literally anywhere in this episode. Like, deep down, there's just a better one. And I think it could have been based on this idea. I think it would have been really cool, or maybe just more, again, on Wraith culture, just in general. If, again, I think maybe it's too early, but, like, bringing, like, the Wraith homeworld, or, like, a Wraith planet, where, like, maybe the team sneaks onto a Wraith planet, and then that's when they get, you know, detained, and that's when they get, like, you know, they have to break out of this prison, but it's, like, on this Wraith planet, and maybe we get to hear more about, like, what about Wraith children? Do those exist? You know, like, Wraith family types, do they have those? Are humans just, like, their little slaves? So they just have, like, a shack full of humans. They just go out and, like, get the cow, bring in the human to eat. Anyways, so that stuff is really interesting. And it just yeah. So yeah, that was really interesting. That, like, 2 minutes of hearing that Wraith talk, I was like, wow, this is good. And then he stopped talking, and then it got bad again.
Yeah, I think the point about them being able to consume human food with no deleterious effects to their own self is really interesting. I didn't realize that they could do that until rewatching this episode. And I feel like you were saying, Sam, it could have been used to make a more interesting episode in the future, even, at least, where maybe they had a Wraith infiltrate Atlantis. Like, pretend to be a refugee from a planet that was undergoing a, like, Wraith attack or something, and then, like, pretend to be a victim, but, like, disguise as a human. Like, they could hide really well among the humans because they could eat their food and pretend to be, like, you know, but is really a Wraith. So that could have been, like, an interesting thing down the road, since they dropped this lore that they did absolutely nothing with. In addition to the fact that I think the Wraith had mentioned that he had a deal with other Wraiths to, like, also have them feed on the planet. Was that what he was saying? Or did I misinterpret that?
Wasn't it that that no other Wraith would come to this planet, and it was just his?
Yeah. So
I thought it was like this.
I would like to see, like, interactions between Wraith in regards to territory. Like, we've seen them as this guerrilla brute force, but never any sort of, like, nuance in terms of, like, their interpersonal communications between different fleets. So it'd be interesting to see that sort of dynamic, good or bad, also. But we don't really, I don't think, in the future that much. So
No, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now I'm kind of imagining that the Wraith, at some point, they just split the galaxy among themselves and just, like, they're like, each faction or maybe each faction has like one part of the galaxy that they own or that they just use as feeding grounds. And then probably within the factions, they also have like different ranks or different positions where each wraith or each like commanders are given different sections of like the bigger ones. So that would be interesting. Also, like the hierarchy of the wraith civilization or culture.
Yeah. I think it goes back to something that we talked a lot about with Ty on the Daniel Jackson bonusode, with the whole topic of othering and how SG1 tends to other cultures, and, you know, especially Atlantis is really bad at doing that. And I think it sucks that, like, they just never cared enough to develop the Wraith as, like, a functioning society. They just wanted them to be the bad guys, like, plain white and simple. Even though, like, when you think about it inherently, like, they're not even the bad guys. It's just in their biology. Like, sucks to suck. Like, how do we fix them was what Atlantis thought. They didn't even, like, attempt to really understand the Wraith's position. And so, again, I think it just sucks that, like, we get this little interesting tidbit and they just never do anything with it. And I think, again, this could have been so interesting and just such an important episode to really kind of set the tone of what season 2 was going to be. Maybe, again, like, planting the seeds of, oh, they could have, like, name dropped, like, you know, in our version, we have the Council of Queens. They could have name dropped, there was a Council of Queens. That could have been, like, there's a whole bunch of queens that work together that, like, rule you guys. And it could have been, like, a staggering, like, a bomb drop moment, you know? Again, we could have, you know, we talked about they could have been to a Wraith planet, or maybe we could have gone, again, maybe it's too soon, because I think the next episode, right, is it Trinity? Is that the one where we kind of mentioned the ancients? Okay, so maybe it's too soon to do, like, an ancient episode, but it would have been fun if maybe some shenanigans happen and we find out, maybe it's too early to find out if the ancients technically made the Wraith, or we could have gotten, like, a hint of that. Again, I just feel like this episode could have laid the groundwork for future stories, and there's just, like, nothing. I think it's easy to say that this is, like, the worst episode of the show so far.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was trying to rate it and was like, I don't know how low I want to go, but yeah, I think for me it's also the worst one so far, because it as a whole, it just doesn't do anything for me emotionally. It's when I just checked which episode we were recording next. I was like Condemned, and I was like, which episode is Condemned? And I couldn't remember which one it was. And then I remembered, I was like, oh, right, that one. So I wasn't super thrilled about it as well. Yeah, I think there are some good moments, or some interesting thing what you mentioned before about the Wraith, some good character or team dynamics, so like Elizabeth, of course, that we saw her in her element a bit. But apart from that, it didn't seem to fit together well. I don't know if that makes sense, but it felt not really cohesive, maybe. It just felt like a bunch of different plots happening, and they were connected, but I didn't really feel like it.
Yeah, and I suppose looking at this episode in terms of the bigger picture, like the whole season and the series as a whole, it doesn't have that much, if any, plot impact. Even though it could have. Like, one thing that made me really sad was the character that they had introduced from the penal colony, Eldon, was never talked about ever again. He expressed an interest in going to Atlantis with the team. They invited him to come back to Atlantis. I'm assuming he went back with them, and we just never see him again. And in terms of his character introduction, I was interested in him. I thought, oh, here's this guy who, like, has a lot of knowledge on how to build explosives and weapons, and that could be really useful in terms of fighting the Wraith, because even though like they had sticks and stones basically to build this weaponry with, he was able to destroy ancient tech. Literally destroyed the puddle jumper to the point where it did not function at the end of the episode, and Rodney couldn't even fix it. So I think he had a lot of potential, even in terms of his character personality, to be an interesting addition to the science team. How would he and Zelenka interact? How would he and Rodney interact? Was he really as innocent as he was claiming to be of the crimes that he had allegedly committed? And how would that affect how everybody saw him on Atlantis? That sort of thing, I think, could have been interesting. Just to have another person that was not from Earth on the expedition. But again, it was one of those things that was just like, oh, wouldn't that be cool? And then was dropped. Which is unfortunate.
Yeah, when you said that you assumed that he got back with them to Atlantis, I was just like, and then never seen again. I was like, yeah, I think he got back with them, and now he's just chilling with Sora in the basement.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. Accurate.
They're just collecting aliens and then just stick them in the basement.
Yep.
No, because, I mean, when you really think about it, right? I mean, it's really sweet of Atlantis to be like, hey, yeah, you can come with us. And there's that really funny moment where Eldon's like, wait, he's like, can I come with you guys? And John's like, yeah, don't worry about it, you're coming with us. John's like, yeah, shut up, you're coming, don't worry. And so it's really sweet that they want to take him on. But then I remembered, right, because it has been a while since we've recorded and watched Atlantis. But at this point in time, like, the Wraiths still think Atlantis is, like, completely gone. So generally, they cannot let him go. So since he went through the wormhole, he is, like, stuck with them. And it's just kind of crazy that they never show him again. Because they were literally like, we can't tell anyone we're here. They haven't been telling anyone. They've been saying, oh, Atlantis is destroyed. Like, we're alone. Like, we moved somewhere else. And then they just, like, kidnapped this alien. And now they're like, we're holding you hostage so you can't leave.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting. Because he can't leave if by the logic of the show. And I was going to say, I was like, oh, maybe he's just on the mainland. But I like the idea that he's just in the basement with Sora. They just throw him down there and he's like, oh, hey. And she's like, oh my God, another person?
Some company.
She's like, oh my God, were you kidnapped with the Atlanteans too? And he was like, oh my God, yeah. They can bond over that.
He could be like the weapons fairy and like have blueprints to like different types of things that they could use and just leave them like overnight where no one can see him, and then he just goes back down to the basement to get a sword.
Love that. I think actually they would work great together because Sora is Janai, right? So I'm not exactly sure what kind of education she has and what's her specialty, but the Janai were also building like bombs and stuff like that, things to fight the Wraith, and he's doing the same. So I think they would get along.
No, I think so too, and I think it would just be so funny that like Atlantis just has a prison done in the basement for all the like aliens they just pick up along the way, and Pegasus, like, it's just so on brand for them. All of their war crimes, why not add like kidnapping, hostages onto the list of many list of crimes they've committed.
It's funny because either they just like collect aliens and put them on the flagship team, or they just move them into the basement.
Yeah.
There's no in between.
Oh my gosh. They're like, you're worthy. And they're like, you're unworthy. Basement. It's like Toy Story, where like when Andy just like leaves some of his toys behind, and it's like, you're not gonna play with me? Like, I'm your favorite toy. That's Atlantis. They're like, Teyla, Ronon, come with me. And Sora and Eldon are like, nah. No, I was just gonna say, a while ago, I posted some pictures on my Tumblr, just of some ideas that we were talking about in terms of what Atlantis would have looked like, sort of in our canon, how more Greek and Minoan inspired it is. And I always just picture that when we're talking about Atlantis now. And I just started cracking up because I was remembering that in one of the pictures that I posted, it was a canal. They had an underwater canal thing, right? Like an underwater like channel. It's like, I like to think it's just like a little circle of freeway, and there's like exits. They can just take their boat out and go to this hall or go to this like the dormitory. And anyways, right? And so I just like to think that like Sora and Eldon just row their boat there sometimes for like some freedom. They're like, oh my god, fresh air. Because they just like roll around in there. And they're like, all right, back to work, gang. And they go to like the secret, like one of the canals is just named like prison. And they just roll their boat down there.
It just
and it's like just their whole underworld. It's not even a prison anymore. They like turned it into just like they've like ripped it apart, like made like a bed, a frame out of it. Like they've just like reworked it completely. It's just a house now.
They flipped it.
They flipped it.
I guess
they have like some DIY furniture.
Just get a camera crew down there.
Like, we could. Eldon's like, we could rent this place out, And so I was like, oh my god, yeah. How much should we charge a month?
They're renting it to like the burned out scientists.
Yeah, they can't be.
They're
too
like, no
far
one's
away.
gonna find you here.
Yeah, exactly.
They're like, want to escape from Rodney for a day? Come hang out in the prison.
They keep the name. It's called the prison, but it's like upside down or something, so it means the opposite.
Yeah, it becomes ironic.
Yeah. They're like, enjoy. Oh my god, they totally like milk the experience too and like market the hell out of it. Like, enjoy an accurate Atlantean prison. They're like, come witness what it must have felt like 10,000 years ago.
I love it.
That's so on brand for Sora. She's a boss babe.
Heck yeah.
Yes.
Enterprising.
Good for her.
But speaking of the chosen ones, Ronon and Teyla, and not the aliens that are abandoned in the basement. But yeah, I really enjoyed their whole dealio in this episode. I think we're getting the seeds of what is soon or fast becoming their great friendship. They have a great connection, I feel like. Even from the first scene in the jumper, where Rodney very foolishly was like, nobody's on the planet, or there's like a big smoke cloud from fire, and Ronan's like, and he looks at Teyla, and Tayla's like laughing and rolling her eyes. So cute. One of many looks they share. Earthmen are stupid looks that they share. Also, like her wrapping his leg in the jumper after he gets injured was really sweet. And them kicking ass together at the end of the episode, just so flawlessly working in tandem. Like they've been doing it all their lives, just really cool to see. And I think that every episode should have a Teyla and Ronon team up fight scene. Not just the sun.
Yep. I love them. I love that their connection, because they are both aliens. They're both from like aliens to the Atlantis expedition, but they are both from the Pegasus galaxy. They're both for the Wraith for so long, but they don't just have. They are still, I guess, Teyla a bit less by now, but they're a bit of outsiders still in Atlantis. So they still they very quickly have this relationship. That's really really fun to watch, and I love them. And Teyla is such a mom friend. Like she keeps checking on everyone all the time. Not just on Ronon. But yeah, I love that we saw Teyla fighting with sticks again. Because I don't remember that she does that a lot, like in in action and not just in the training room. Like we see her training a lot of times, but we don't see a lot of her skills in action. So I really enjoyed seeing it in the second season. So they still remember.
That's so right.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think the last time that she fought with Styx in action, like against a Wraith, was Suspicion.
Yeah, I think so too. That was 1 season ago, pretty much.
Yeah.
I think Suspicion is episode 6 or 5 even.
5, I think it's 5.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And the sound is so satisfying, like the snaps that the sticks make when they hit her, like the enemy is so good. Just love it. Good sound design.
Yeah.
Yeah. They kind of, I'm going to say, they kind of slapped with like the fight choreography too, this episode for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. And yeah, going back, I think it's so fun too, because I think that, I want to give credit where credit is due. And I think a lot of it goes to Jason and Rachel. I think they have a lot of natural chemistry, like a lot, just like, I don't know, they just have like such good vibes, like whether or not you see it as platonic or romantic, whatever. I just feel like they just have such natural chemistry together, and it always just feels genuine. And I think it's fun to see that just from the first, technically it's like their second episode, their first off-world mission, like you already see like, how close they are, even though, again, Ronan's been there for like 2 episodes and they didn't even get along in their like second one. I was gonna transition it into just Ronon appreciation, because again, I don't know if it's just the Ronon love goggles that I have on, or if they're just like completely blinding me from everything, but just the way kind of like Ronon fits in so well is just kind of crazy to me. This is their first off-world mission. This is their first time he's really interacting with Rodney, for example. He didn't really have a lot to interact with Rodney before. This is the first time he's kind of, with Teyla on like kind of like good terms. I know they were on like kind of terrible terms last episode. And again, it blows my mind that it feels so natural and just so easy and fun. And it's just this episode. Like, he feels like he's been here like forever. Like it does not feel like this is his first off-world mission.
Totally agree. It's like a seamless entrance into this world for him, for sure. Like, it's not, there's no bumbling, there's no like, what are we doing? Like, there's no dragging the feet or anything. Like, it's just bam, mission, bam, chemistry. Everything is just on point.
Well, and, I know I praised him and Teyla too, but obviously with him and John and him and Rodney, there's just such a different dynamic to each of them. And, they're all equally important. Obviously his friendship with Teyla is super important, but his kind of, like military leader, and, soldier kind of, but like also still friends. And like John's trying not to be that military leader, and Ronan's trying to test John to see where the line is for John, and see what kind of leader he is, but like still in like in a friendly tone. And then just kind of like his like bickering with Rodney is very reminiscent obviously of Ford, but they kind of just seem more like, they kind of just seem more like even more sharp, I guess. Like, I feel like they could have more of a back and forth maybe than Ford and Rodney. I feel like maybe they would have like a quick 1-2, but I feel like Ford and Rodney could just go on like for hours where they just be arguing and just go back and forth until one of them finally gives up. And it's Rodney, because he's just like, you don't get it. And he just walks off or something crazy. Or Ronan just because he's like, I'm bored. Bye. But yeah, so I just think, again, so what this episode does terribly is the story, but I do think it just does an insane job of setting up everyone's dynamics and all the friendships and just the team dynamic in general. And again, I feel like it just has to go to the actors. Credit to all the actors, just for all of them having just such natural chemistry, just fitting in together like puzzle pieces.
Yeah, I mostly agree with what you two have said, but to me it didn't feel completely seamless. Like, I think Ronan fits well into the team. I enjoy all the like the new dynamic that they have. I love Ronon. I enjoy watching him and doing his thing. But I felt like he, as you said, Sam, he was still like testing, maybe also testing like as exactly where his place is, or maybe he wasn't. I don't think that he was unsure of what his place was, but he was just like, yeah, testing the limits of how far he could go and how much he. Like, I think he's still. In the end, he is accepting that he's now part of a team and he's not on his own anymore, and that he can't just do whatever he wants. He has to listen to John. But I felt there was like quite a conflict actually between John and Ronon, especially in the scene where they are tied up and Ronon is they're all trying to get free. And I think at some point Ronon asks if John is giving him an order, and John is like, I don't want to give you an order, but if you need that, then yes, it's an order. So I thought it was interesting to watch. But because I didn't really, like, especially in those scenes, I didn't really get like a friendship vibe. It was more like a commander and, I don't know, trying to rein in one of their subordinates or something. But yeah, I enjoyed watching all the new relationships.
Yeah, you bring up a salient point. I think the tension between them is interesting in the sense that Shepard has never really had to exert military authority over any of the members of the team in such a manner before. Like, he's never had to be like, I order you to do this. I don't remember, anyways. There was maybe one time where Teyla sort of didn't agree with what Shepard wanted, but wasn't like, well, I'm going to do it anyway, sort of thing. So it was interesting to see him have to step into that role as an authority figure when he so often is the one bucking against authority. And I'm kind of sensing a transition in the team dynamic where now they're like, okay, we can't have John be the super crazy, temperamental, emotionally driven person if he's going to be the leader of the team. So we can maybe give some of that energy or those characteristics to Ronon, and then have John be sort of the leader, act more in a leadership role. So that was interesting, but I feel like he, at the same time, he doesn't want to have to be in that position. Like, he doesn't want Ronon to be questioning things that he asks him to do. Like, he doesn't want to be the man. So I think that assertion, like, I couldn't order a pizza right now if I wanted to, but whatever. Like, this idea that he doesn't want to do it is nice. Because I feel like it falls nicely into his character, who is sort of this lackadaisical, anti-authoritative guy.
No, I'm totally agree. I meant more like seamless and just like how like natural it feels, I think, with Jason Momoa. And I love, don't get me wrong, I love that like him and John don't really start off on like seeing, on the same page kind of. And I honestly think it should have gone on for longer, or at least maybe one more episode, instead of just kind of like, I feel like it was more in the background in this episode. And I feel like I would have preferred if it was like maybe like a 2-episode sort of thing. And then John finally snaps in the second episode and it's like, I'll give you order, fine. So I just think it's so interesting, especially, knowing Ronon's background, his military background, and sort of how he was in the military. And then obviously he was not for like 7 to 8 years. And he's been on the run. He's been the one making the shots, pulling shots, and having to kind of rein himself in and be that person who he used to be, and like listening to others, I think is just such an interesting sort of, just not even just story plot, just an interesting character development that we could have had if it went on for longer instead of just like random bits here and there. because after this, I feel like I don't remember if, I don't think there's ever really a time afterwards where Ronon disobeys John. I'm trying to think.
I feel he sometimes just runs off, but then it's something that they wanted to do anyways. I don't have any proof right now. That's just like a feeling. He just sometimes just starts running, and they're like, "Oh fuck, okay, I guess we'll go."
I think the only other time, but it's not really against John, is in the shrine, right? When Woolsey's like, Jennifer's like, "You're not taking Rodney," and Rodney's like, "I'll take him alone if I have to." Like, kind of more of a threat rather than just actually doing it. So that is kind of a missed opportunity, because I think it would have been really difficult for Ronon to sort of get back into that headspace of, okay, I'm like, 20, 19 years old again, and I'm taking orders from a guy who's an alien, not even like, he's an alien to me, he's not from the Pegasus. He doesn't know how things work here. And yet I have to take orders from him, and I have to sort of rein my like rage in. And I think that would have it would have been so fun. I say fun, but it would have been fun for me and fun for the audience, to kind of see him. I honestly think that's a whole entire season's worth of like material to dive into, or at least half a season of sort of development with Ronon. Yeah, it kind of sucks because, well, this is kind of going into something else, but I'm not sure as of yet, right? We're on episode 5. I'm not really seeing some of the, I'm not really sure if our characters are really having that sort of development, right? As they did in season 1, where it's like a multiple episode growth. And it is early in the season, but I'm wondering if we're going to get anything by like the mid-season, episodes, if there is some sort of gradual arc for any of the characters.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if the character growth in the first season started that early as well, because I always remember the first few episodes of Atlantis, except Rising, being a little, like, not my favorites, and just a bit like the first season, the first episodes of season 2 as well. They are more like single episodes, not that connected yet. So it starts a little bit later. So yeah, it will be interesting to see how the season progresses. And back to Ronon for a bit. Yeah, as one of you two said, he was used to call his own shots for 7 years, and also to fight for his life constantly. So I think he probably just built up some not reflexes, but just like the way he acts around, or when he's threatened, or in a situation where he might not come out alive, or where I think he just has, in his mind, he just constantly has to fight, and maybe he has trouble accepting help because he has bad experiences with that, because others had to suffer when he accepted their help. So yeah, I think he has a lot of issues, and it would have been interesting. I think we touched on a few of them in this one, especially with the authority thing, and with the seeing more like the broader picture maybe on how they can get off this planet and out of this situation. But yeah, there are a few more things that would have been fun to be explored.
I wanted to say that really quick. I think Rodney was the only one to kind of start getting his character growth, right? Super early.
Mm-hmm. I'd say hide and seek.
It kind of hit. Yeah. I was gonna say, and it definitely kind of reached its climax, I kind of want to say, or like at least like the point where it became like very obvious to the audience in the Defiant one, right? That's when the guy is like, "You've changed, McKay," and Rodney's like, "What?" And he's like, "You want to
in the
help."
storm as well, right?
Yeah, that as well too. And so I think you made a good point. Honestly, I totally like, I never realized that like they kind of start the character work quite late in the season, which is interesting. Because you're right, like Elizabeth and Teyla, the little that they get, it all started at the end. Same with Ford, kind of. Oh, I don't know if we even had an arc, but like we got more Ford in the last few episodes, right? And then John, maybe John was kind of spread out throughout the season, or maybe more early on, right? I think it also reached ahead for like the storm, the eye, kind of that whole thing. We kind of finally stepped up a little more. But that's interesting. And yeah, you're right. I guess we'll have to try, keep a lookout for that when we get past the midseason, to see if they do anything.
Fingers crossed.
Dun dun dun.
We got sad.
But one way to lift it up, as speaking of Rodney, I think he had a really good episode this episode. Compared to last week's episode, I think we see a bit more of the serious character development that I like in Rodney, and the less of the caricature Rodney. There's some interesting personality points in this episode. One of my favorites was I don't remember his name, the penal colony leader man who was threatening him to fix the jumper, has a line where he says, you have a better moral character than people are led to believe. And the way to threaten you to do something is not to threaten you, but to threaten your friends. And I think he just nailed Rodney, personality right there. Because I think he puts on a front, and superficially, he may appear to be a very shallow and unloving person, but 100% he was right that threatening the team was the way to set the fire under him to try and fix that jumper. And it's kind of a nice bow on his whole sort of redemption arc, as I like to call it, on season 1. We're just reinforcing, this is Rodney's true character deep down inside. And it was nice to see that reiterated, especially from someone outside who's never even met him before, known anything of him, but the 2-second interaction that they originally had.
I love that. This guy took one look at Rodney and was like, okay, this guy's putting up a front. That's his true character. I was like, we took a whole season to just discuss it and point out all the instances, and he just did it in yeah. Also, I love the little MacGyver reference.
Yeah!
It was really fun.
Yeah.
So cute. Yeah. That's so true. And I'm really happy that you brought that up, Tor, because at least there's one sort of nice little bow on something that was mentioned in season 1. And I'm trying to think. Again, maybe I'm just putting too much hope into this show. Maybe I'm just treating it as more than just a kid's show, But I really wonder, we'll see. Obviously, by the end of the season, my question will be answered. But I really wonder sort of what was, if there's an evolution for Rodney this season, what it is, because I can't remember it as of right now. He did his big growth in season 1, and I'm trying to remember what else happens in season 2, and I'm do any of these characters move forward?
That is to be determined.
Ooh.
TBD.
Mic drop.
Yeah. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on it here. But another thing I thought was interesting point that they brought up about Rodney was this idea that he sort of conflates things and says things are impossible to make himself look better when he actually accomplishes them. So I wanted to ask you guys, our Jumping Puddles panel here, if you believe that that's true, that Rodney exaggerates the impossibility of something to make it look even better when he achieves it, or do you just think that he has a negative outlook, and so whenever he's faced with a problem that seems insurmountable, he really believes that it is until he applies himself to it?
I think it's interesting that you bring that up, Because I feel like Rodney, like at first, he will do both, right? So he will say he needs this amount of time and then finish early, or he will say like an impossibly short amount of time in order to like then take, or not in order, but and then he will end up taking a lot longer than that. I don't remember which episode it is, but I think I watched it recently, and I think it was one where he's collaborating with Todd, and he says like he gets 9 hours or something, and then it cuts to like 9 hours later, and John comes in and was like, "Okay, time's up," and Rodney's like, "What? Time is up already? How? I didn't sleep." Or something like that. And then in this episode, he says like, yeah, in an ideal world, he would need 2 days, but in this situation, he needs just like 10 minutes. And so yeah, and to come back to your question, I honestly don't think that I don't think he's doing the Scotty move. Like, Scotty always says he needs much more time, and I think it's kind of, I don't know if it's the origin, but it's like, yeah, I read it in like a trope list of this episode. It was like the Scotty move. But I don't think that Rodney does that. I think he has a realistic / pessimistic outlook on things, and tries to take a good guess on how long he will take. And then, I don't know, things come up, things change, they find a different way to do things, and then he ends up taking less time, or more, depends. But, yeah, I don't think he would embellish his actions that way, for some reason.
Yes, no, I agree. I totally agree. I don't think he's the type to really be all like, I need this amount of time, like stat, and like tried to make it seem like he's the hero every time, especially because this happens all the goddamn time, where they're like, Rodney, quick, we need something done in 2 hours, and he's like, I can't do that. They're like, you only have 2 hours, and he's like, okay. I like to just think that he, like, the first number he gives out is like his, like, in a perfect world, if I had all the free time, if I included breaks. And then the second time that they give him is usually like, Rodney, this is Atlantis time. You can't do like the fancy science stuff that you're used to. You can't like take your time with anything. And he has to just be like, all right, I gotta half-ass it. So that's kind of, especially in this one too, where he's like underneath the jumper, like basically like carjacking, where he's like just fusing things together. Like he's just I think he's really learned, especially on Atlantis, like a quick way to do things, and like a way to just like, without all the fancy, without all like the niceties, he just like gotta get the job done, like smush things together. And so I like to think again that he's like, the first time he gives is like, okay, if I do it nicely, if you guys want it to work again, he's like, y'all give me 2 days. And they're like, you have 10 minutes. And he's like, all right, then this will never fly again. And he's like, all right, like this is gonna be Zelenka's problem afterwards, not mine. So that's kind of how I see it. It's just him, like, unfortunately, they've just like forced him to become like abandon all of his like scientific like procedures and all of his steps, and he just has to skip to like step like 18. And he's like, all right, shit, gotta like plug this in, like, yeah.
Yeah, he's reduced to MacGyvering it so much, as he said in the episode. No, I think I agree with you both. Yeah, I think I find it hard to believe that he would do that, because he does it, like you said, all the time. Like, they rely on him to do so much off-world and on Atlantis. And it would just be like, they already know and trust him to do, like, these things. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like he has to convince them by, making a show of it. Like, oh, I can do these amazing things. Like, no, they know, and they're already asking you. Like, there's a line of people asking you to do stuff. So, yeah, I don't know. I think he's just a realist, and his time estimates are genuine. I do like the domestic that it causes between him and John in this episode. I thought it was really funny, where John is like, oh, we'll do this when they're trying to fix the jumper. And Rodney's like, and do you want a sandwich too? Like, of all these things that you're asking me to do, like, am I your maid? I love it. It was so good.
Yes. Also, another great McShep moment is when, I forgot where exactly, but when John calls him out, he's like, Rodney, you're a shit liar. He's like, you're such a bad liar. Rodney's like, well, okay, fine, I did lie. John's just like, I know you, you're bad at this. So it's so domestic.
It's very much, we've been together for too long. Stuck in space. I know you too well. I love it. The vibes are great. Oh, but I forgot to mention, when we were talking about Ronon and Rodney, the whole beginning of the episode where Ronon was eating the food at the fire, and Rodney was like, ew! And then Ronan's like, it's good. And then Rodney's like, really? It's one of those moments where I think starts their whole Ronon lying to Rodney and Rodney believing everything he says thing. Yeah. Cannot wait for that in the future. But also, I just have this idea in my head. I don't know if I'm projecting, but I feel like Rodney is such a picky eater, and Ronan's delight in certain foods gets him to, like, try different things. I think it'd be nice bonding for them.
Oh my god, yes, I love that. I was gonna say too, I think I just have to admit it publicly. I feel like I've been like dancing around it, but I just think I really love Rodney and Ronon. Like, I think they're one of my favorite Atlantis pairings. I can kind of see it romantic sometimes. Sometimes I just like the bickering though. But again, it's like the Daniel Tilk of it all, which I just love. It's like tiny scientists and big men who must protect scientists.
Yeah.
But they're like opposite sides of the coin, Because it's like Daniel and Tilk are so sweet, and Daniel's like, I trust you with my life, Tilk. And Tilk is like, oh my god, yay, bestie. And on the other side, it's like Rodney, like, being picked up by Ronon, or being, like, forcefully hugged by Ronon. And Rodney's like, oh, like, hugs, or, like, stuff like that. So it's just so, like, we're, like, I'm sure there's, like, a scene where just, like, Ronon just drags Rodney too. I want to say it's, like, Epiphany, or maybe, the Nightmare one. I don't know. There's an episode where Rodney's talking and Ronan's just like, bitch, come here. And he just drags him, like, away. He's like, you're coming with me, sir. And so I'm obsessed with their dynamic, and I'm going to just keep bringing it up. And I just think from the beginning, again, Rodney and Ronon have not interacted really at all for these past two episodes. I mean, we do get that great moment in Runner where Ronon saves Rodney while he's hanging upside down. They haven't had much conversation, and so I think they just did such a great job with this episode. And I think, again, it's just these little moments that sort of make the episode not completely, like, unwatchable. I still think it's terrible to watch, but at least when you're watching it, and if you just pick out the little moments, you're like, this is great. Because, yeah, there's that really great moment with the Goldilocks, and then right after, when Ronon is shot with the arrow, and Ronnie's like, are you okay? And he keeps looking at Ronon's leg like, girl, can this bitch move? And Ronon's like, I'm fine, run. And again, just going off of the little moments with Ronon, I love, again, he's kind of already assumed his protector role. Again, it's something so small, but when they're in the puddle jumper at the end and John kind of runs out, and then it's like Teyla, and then like Ronon like pushes, or he like motions for Rodney and Eldon to go, and he kind of takes up the last spot. And I just love that. Like, he's already assumed, like, that I'm in the back. Like, I'm protecting them so they go first kind of thing. Just gotta shoot out a bunch. There's the last one. There's also a really funny moment when they're all in the magistrates, or whatever the guy's name is, his like office thing, and like they're talking on the phone with Elizabeth. And I just left the back, like John's on the phone, and it's like Tayla's in the background, like she's like looking at this lamp, she's like pointing, she's like just like staring at this lamp for some reason. Okay, but the funniest part is Ronon and Rodney at this food table. And Rodney's like picking at the food, and you just see Ronon. Do you see him? He's stuffing food into his pockets and like into his holster. Like, he keeps going for like more than 5 seconds, he's just putting food into his little, like, I saw him, like, opening something and putting it in the, like, I was cracking up. We kind of got way off topic of the Rodney and Ronon thing, but it's, like, their love for food is so funny together. But again, I just love, like, these little moments that, like, Jason kind of put into Ronon, and I just think it's so in character, especially because Ronan's still, like, I might be on the run, and I feel like he would be like, I gotta stock up on food really quick to, like, just in case if I need it later. And I feel like, you know, oh man, this goes into another wormhole, but I think it'd be so interesting if he kind of had, like, a problem with, like, food hoarding or something on Atlantis, and someone had to talk to him and be like,
Ooh.
listen, babe, like, it's okay, you can, you know, you're good with us here, you can, like, you don't have to do that anymore. But, like, things like that where he's, like, very possessive of certain items, right? Maybe he's, like, very, like, no one comes in my room, they have to do, like a cleaning check or something in the military, and Ronan's like, you are not entering. Anyways, that's just spitballing ideas. But again, I just love the little moments that just really make this episode for me.
Yeah, I totally agree. You know what made the episode for me?
Elizabeth!
Yes! We get to see her again. And in her element.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes. It was because was she in the last episode?
Barely. Remember,
Barely,
she was
right?
Like, it was duet. Yeah, so she was like, Rodney, go.
Oh
to your
yeah,
room.
yeah. Yeah. She was there, but it wasn't a lot about her. But I think she has some of her most badass moments in this episode, just the way, maybe it's the way this episode was shot, because she has a kind of a standoff with the magistrate. I think it's so powerful, and it's just, it keeps getting closer, like the close-ups are getting closer and closer. And again, in this whole scene, or in the whole interaction with the magistrate, it's again, they are negotiating, or they want to negotiate like a treaty between the two, whatever. And she, at some point, she realizes that this guy is very fishy, and she just breaks it off. And just the whole time, again, she has like the upper hand for some reason, not for some reason, because she's just that good. And it's just, I love to watch her just like being so, I don't know, so self-assured, so steadfast in her position. And it's just, it's so much to watch it. She's so beautiful. And I also love like Lauren's team just around her and kind of like having her back and being like, wait, don't mess with her, because if you mess with her, we're gonna mess with you. So yeah, that was really, really fun to watch.
Yeah, I loved the line where he basically told her, like, oh, watch your words. And she was like, oh, I'm watching them very carefully, and I'm accusing you of being a grade A asshole, basically. And I was like, yay! Go Elizabeth! She's amazing, wonderful. You're so right. Her whole aura, so confident, the whole time. Even when the situation was turning for the worse, and they were having to pick up the team on the penal colony, and they were facing down the Wraith Dart, she was like, let's get our men. And I was just like, yeah, you go, Elizabeth. My one, I don't really know if it's a criticism, because I sort of appreciate this about Atlantis, and I think you guys know that. But I noticed that Marin, the secretary lady, or the tour guide lady that was helping them after she was arrested for nothing, she had requested their help, and I think they just left her in jail. Right? Because they were like talking to the magistrate, and they were like, what's gonna happen to her? And the magistrate's like, well, she'll have a fair trial, quote unquote. Obviously it's gonna be, yeah, exactly. And then they were like, okay, well, we only really care about our people, so give us our people back. And then I was like, okay, slay. But also that poor lady, I felt kind of bad.
Yeah, they just they forgot about her or all the people that got unrightfully arrested on the planet or in the city. And the Wraith came down onto the city and probably killed all of them. So she's probably dead. And they just freed all the prisoners on the island. So yay for that. But also please help the lady that helped them and made them kind of realize how bad things are right now. So yeah.
Yeah, it also makes no sense though, because they were like, we can't take anyone. They took Eldon. Bitch, they said, you look like a loser, you're coming with us. They were like, you look too cool. They're like, you look like you have your life together. They're like, this is an island of misfit toys. They're like, we accept only the weirdos here. She had her life together too much, basically.
Yeah.
They're like, sorry.
So true.
It would have been fun if they took her back and she came like Elizabeth's assistant.
Ooh.
Because I feel like Elizabeth definitely needs someone to take off some of the workload she has. Like, I don't want... How many people are on Atlantis? I don't know. 100, 200, 300. The amount of reports she's gonna have, requests she's gonna have. She needs a fucking assistant. I think this woman would be... I think her name was Marin. Would be great for that job. And maybe she can wear some clothes where she can do more normal-sized steps and not just like... Because she couldn't really walk! That poor woman! She had like a pencil skirt and yeah.
A long one too, so it was like restrictive.
Yeah.
It was like, how do you bend down in that? You gotta tear something.
Can't.
She's definitely not running from the police in that. Can guarantee.
She has to like
maybe that's the reason.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the reason why they're like, okay, we have to have our fashion in a way that they can't run.
Yeah. Oh no.
Oh, fashion stuff is
that's the reason why. No, I thought you were saying that's the reason why they left her behind. They were like, you can't move, bitch. We need to run.
That's so evil.
She was like, no. They were like, all right, bye. Like, you have to run. Run to the jumper. And she just couldn't. She was like, hop. And they just took off. She's...
Damn. But that kind of brings you to another point, though. Like, the fact that, okay, so it was a penal colony, and some people were arrested for, like, petty crimes, and, like, they weren't actually all murderers that went to the island. And, like, I don't believe in prison as, like, an institution, so whatever. But potentially there is murderers among the people that they let go through the gate. So I'm kind of wondering, like, the implications on Pegasus society that this mass exodus of some guilty and some not prisoners will have, another one of Atlantis's crimes against humanity.
Oh gosh, I hate them.
Yeah.
They're so stupid. They don't think things through ever.
No.
This is their problem, is that they were just like, let's free everyone.
Because it's not like you can stand at the gate and
except
be like...
the woman
Yeah!
who is actually innocent.
Oh my god. Oh
my
bad.
god. Everything they touch, they ruin everything they touch, truly. It's kind of crazy.
It's so bad.
So, like, how is that possible? Every single thing.
No mission ever goes right. None. Zero.
No. Even, not to bring Elizabeth up again, but even I think she's being slowly corrupted, like slowly, but it started with the weapons trade or whatever they did, and now she's threatening that guy. Like, she's also abandoning some of her, I don't know if it's like just a new acquired skill, and little, but yeah, she added threat to her repertoire of negotiation skills.
Certainly did.
Yeah, so true. I was going to bring that up because I was like, never did I think I would see the day where Elizabeth like resorts to threatening so quick. And I was kind of I don't mind her going like all evil with them. I really don't. Like, go off, queen. But I think it was just kind of a shock, I think, more than anything, because we've seen Elizabeth be so much on the other side. And I'm kind of curious too. Was it just like maybe like just in the moment because she's like worried about the team so much that she was like, all right, let's do it? Or was it like because I don't really remember her ever being on their side when they do war crimes. This might be one of the few times where she was like, all right, war criminal brain on. She's like, gotta threaten this guy because my team's here. And so I'm very eager to see if she does it again or if this is just like a one-time thing where she was like on their side.
Yeah, I like in my head canon, it was pretty much because her family was in danger. Like, and they lied to her about because they said they were looking for a team, right? Like,
yeah,
no, they definitely were not, and they just lied to her. And I think she's just very. You better not lie to Elizabeth. It's not a smart move. Don't do that. Yeah, and don't mess with her people. She's very protective.
Yeah, I also think like the working with the Wraith thing is also like a no-no. Because they were, like, allying themselves with the Wraith against their own people. So I feel like maybe she was like, that's one step too far. I can't accept that. But definitely her family was in jeopardy. And so I think that's when the Stone Cold Elizabeth comes out.
Badass Elizabeth. And then also just a little shout out to Lorne. Just for being there. He was kind of sassy, too. He was, like, giving some sass back. And he had, like, the gun out. He was like, don't try it. So I love when Lorne is just there as a presence. It's just fun to have him. And then when he's like a little sassy and he's got Elizabeth's back, I'm like, aw. Love when he's all bodyguard mode.
Yeah, I love his little relationship that he is going on with Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Like he knows how much AR1 means to her and how it just. I guess how much the whole expedition means to her. And yeah, very, very sweet.
Yeah, and I feel like it's a continuing thread as well, where he's sort of the guy that she relies on when AR1 is in trouble. Like, Lorne is sort of the rock, someone she can depend on when her premier team is either in jeopardy or MIA. So, yeah, I like that nice beginnings of their whole thing. It's really nice to see.
Going back to the team dynamic, I just love sort of like the unity they kind of had. Like, I'm happy that there wasn't like more. I mean, obviously I know that like John and Ronon were kind of having their own little separate fighting. But like, I feel like at least like the whole team, they were like together. Like, I'm happy it wasn't like I mean, maybe it would have been interesting to see like more fighting among them or whatever. And then eventually at the end of the episode, they kind of like reached like, okay, we're a team now. But I'm happy either way. And again, I just really love the little moments. I love when they show up and they start talking to the guy, the magistrate, and they look so fucking disgusted. There's that team shot of all of them standing in a row, and they're just trading looks like, this is a penal colony, and they're like totally judging, and like, it's so funny. I mean, they're allowed to judge, but it's just funny because, I mean, knowing the outcome of this episode is like, okay, girl, you guys did not help at all. They thought they were so cool. They thought they were going to be so helpful. Bitch, no.
Never.
So there's that one. Never. Again, all of them getting captured. So funny. They're idiots, Your Honor. When they try to escape, or when they see the jumper in the distance, and they're like, this is too easy. And they're like in the bushes. And just all the little moments where John's like, we have to be quiet. And he's like glaring at Rodney. Rodney's like, what do I have to, like, why me? Like, why are you looking at me? And then like Teyla like pushes him forward. She's like, shut the fuck up. And then when they're the whole little thing with Ronon and John as well, where Ronan's just like calls him out. He's like, I thought you didn't want to fight. And John's like, oh, I'm just lazy. And then And also Eldon, I don't know his actor. I just want to shout him out too. I wish I should have looked up his name before, but I love Eldon's actor. I think he did a fantastic job. And just kind of, you can see him in the background, just kind of like blinking at things, and it's so fun. But I love the moment when they're like in the grass again, and they're like, you know, running to like hide behind, and he like does a flip or something on the ground. Or he does like some sort of half roll, and he pops up like behind John, like it's just so endearing. Again, it's just little moments of just random background acting from everyone, including the main cast, that I think just solidifies this episode as semi-decent.
Justice for Eldon.
Justice! You will never be forgotten, King. You have the highest honor bestowed upon you. You are in the Jumping Puddles Canon.
Exactly.
We'll never forget you now.
But yeah, Sam, I agree. I feel like this is a common idea on the show, but the idea that the actors, their innate chemistry, but also their micro expressions, their background acting, things that are not explicit in the script, really make the show and really just make the characters. It's just a fun experience. It makes it feel real. It makes their relationships feel genuine. I really enjoy one moment in particular when they were discussing how the penal colony works to Elizabeth on the phone, and they were bickering about Canada and the US's differing laws on capital punishment, and that was really funny. Super in character for the boys to be like that. But also taking it further, like Rodney's love, like it's talking about what he would prefer, like lethal injection or the electric chair. And John's reaction, I am obsessed with their shared morbid sense of humor. I think it's great and such an awesome element of their friendship. And something we can see continuing through the show, which is great. What else? And going back to what you said about John, like him mentioning he was lazy, was so good because he totally is. I feel like, yes, 100%. Even though he's a super competent guy when he's on mission, I just feel like he'd rather be spending his days like lounging on his bed, reading sports magazines, golfing, you know, like just being lazy. And then I guess an element of acting physical comedy that was really good in this episode was when I don't know if we mentioned this already, but Teyla goes to break the sticks. And of course she does it on the first try. It snaps beautifully, and she has her 2 little Bantos rods. And then John sees, and he's like, "Ooh, that looks so freaking badass. I want to try." And he picks up the chunkiest log he can find on the ground and tries to snap it over his knee. His geriatric 35, 40-year-old knee. And compared to Teyla's 20-year-old knee. And I just thought it was so funny that he was unsuccessful and decided to use the stick as a club instead. It's just wonderful. So good. So I love how even when they fight, these characters are in character, you know?
I was thinking the exact same thing. Oh my god, I'm cracking up here. Help. I'm crying. It's so funny. And it's exactly what you said. Teyla is all elegant and like has like these sleek sticks now and is just doing badass things. Hey, John just clubs that guy with this huge... Oh, he's such an idiot. He's such an idiot. I love him.
It's just so wow. I love him so much. And I love that they made him a loser.
Yes.
Thank you.
Pathetic men.
Loser representation.
Appreciate it.
We need more.
100%.
I don't know how the hell we haven't talked about this before. This entire episode. Are you kidding me? The amount of gifts, the amount of screen caps, the amount of material, juicy material there is. that everyone was tied up with their hands behind their back and had collars on.
Yeah.
Fucking collars. Really did it for me. I was like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. They had to have known, like, what they were doing, right? Everyone has, like, dirt on their face, and they're, like, a little bit sweaty, so they have, like, the shiny makeup on, but it's, like, the attractive sweaty, and it was very...
Hands, like in front or, like, up. They had behind. They had a collar, too, like, okay. I didn't know they rolled like that in this damn penal colony.
Yep. And can I just say, Rodney's arms were distracting me in every scene. Every scene when he was on the thing and his hands were like that and his whole chest was just out. And then when he was fixing the jumper and he had the short sleeves on and we were seeing his arms and I was like, ah.
Okay, but Teyla in her purple shirt?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite Teyla shirt, by the way.
Oh, she looks so good.
And she was fighting in it as well, right? So she usually wears like the jacket or something, but just in the pants and the top and the sticks. And...
Showing off her arms. I loved it.
Don't even get me started.
You look so good.
I appreciate. Thank you for that.
Thank you. I don't know how I feel about. I think Ronon gets better outfits as he goes along. Right. I'm not sure about the all beige. I feel like, or I also like when his hair is pulled back into like the pony.
Me too.
I think he has like a ponytail, right? Yeah. Okay. I like that hairstyle more. So I was like, okay, you look good, but I know you're gonna look better. So I'll wait for that. But John. Oh. It's okay, sorry. Just like, whoa, Your Honor, whoa, thank you, costuming department. In the collar, like, wait, you know what the... I'm shaking. Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Really good stuff. Really.
They knew what they were doing. I appreciate them.
For our
the
lives.
Jumping Puddles simping hour.
Always.
Yeah. That was wow. And they weren't even like standing up either. They were like on their knees. It was just like, you really had to go. You hit like every check mark on the box. Wanted all of them equally. They were dirt and all. Let's go. Let's go to the shack. Let's go to one of the shacks over there. I got y'all. Like before the race come, quick, John, please. Taylor, just one chance. Just one chance. I'm begging.
Shouldn't they be the one begging?
Shay.
Stop.
Shay.
Behind the tree. Like, there was just so many in the jumper. Like, there was just so many places. Anywhere.
Oh my god.
Hey, where's our horny jail?
Yeah. I think we need it.
I think it's the perfect way to end this episode. With me being thrown in horny jail. And you two are coming in there with me.
Yeah, I mean, it's only fair.
I mean, if Teyla is going, I'm there. Anyways.
Oh yeah, let's stop right there. It's about to get real. It's about to get real rated R. So, I guess we can pass it on to Ash for the Bechdel test.
Yes.
Yeah, this episode passes. We have a quick interaction between Elizabeth and Marin.
Yes.
Woo. And I think I just continue with the behind the scenes.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Bless you.
Okay. As for notes behind the scenes, This episode shares elements similar to the episode of SG-1, which is called Prisoners. Both involve a prison on the other side of the gate and a substance that can create nuclear energy without radioactivity. Both stories conclude with the people from Earth helping the prisoners escape.
True.
The video of the puddle jumper flying over the lake is stock footage from the season 1 episode Childhood's End. And it was also used in the episode Sanctuary.
Oh.
The government building of the Allegiance is actually the Chan Center for the Performing Arts at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver. This building is often used for sci-fi shows, for example also for Battlestar Galactica, because it looks so futuristic.
Oh, cool. That's not my neck of Canada, but dang, I want to visit there so I can see that.
This is the first episode in which Teyla refers to Shepard by his first name, and in which Shepard refers to Ronon as Chewie.
Yeah. I love this nickname. Can't wait to hear it again.
Love that. And I can't believe this is the first time Teyla said John.
Yeah. I'm surprised she hasn't said it earlier, to be honest.
But I like that, though. That's like finally, like, she's kind of comfortable around him. And now she can kind of say it. I like that.
Yeah. Me too.
We have a few recurring actors. Alan C. Peterson, who played the Magistrate, previously played the Canon on the SG-1 episode Demons. Christian Bocker, who plays Torel. I think he's the main prisoner guy. Previously played Major Dean Newman in the SG-1 episode Shades of Grey, and Raymond Gunn / Dr. Levant in the episode Wormhole Extreme and 200.
Oh!
I did not fucking recognize him. I had to look him up. I was like, this is the same guy? This is the same guy? How is that possible? Acting. But
Yeah.
Whoa! They definitely did something with his hair, though. Like, it's like...
I think a beard?
Oh, beards
Yeah,
can do that.
yeah.
I think in this episode he had like a... Yeah. And I felt like he had a completely different face. Also, like the form of his face. It was, insane transformation.
It's crazy.
Yeah, last one, the Wraith Commander is played by our buddy James Lafazanas.
Again!
Oh, however you pronounce him. He played basically all male Wraith in this season, or in this show so far. He's played Jimmy, Steve, Mr. Hooper, Gordon, Bob, and another Wraith Commander.
Oh, Bob.
So I guess at some point they just stopped naming the Wraith.
Yeah. They couldn't come up with names anymore.
Yeah. And I think one of the reasons why they just kept bringing him back was because they had, like, the mask, like, the prosthetics are just molded to his face. They have, like, the mold of his face, so you can just reuse the mask, I guess, or just reuse the mold and just keep maybe doing a few changes so he looks like different hair, so he looks different. Yeah.
Oh,
but
yeah,
it's
makes sense.
so funny that he played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 characters so far.
They seem pretty different too, which is kind of fun.
Yeah. A few more notes. A lot of the costumes from the prisoners on the colony are from the movie Waterworld from 1995, starring Kevin Costner, and they were just rented for this episode. Yeah.
Oh, funny.
Yeah.
Why? I love that.
Also, a lot of the extras on the penal colony were stunt people because of all the explosions going off, which is...
Makes sense.
Yeah. Also, I didn't know that. I got that from the audio commentary. Lorne is actually named after Peter DeLuise's brother-in-law.
Oh, that's nice.
Fun.
I think Lorne is a cool name. I feel like Lorne is a cool last name. I like it.
I love Lorne.
Yeah.
The name.
And I really like this one. The one big guy on Lorne's team is John Millington, and he was a former Canadian Football League player. He's a 2-time Grey Cup champion, which is, I guess, the Canadian Super Bowl?
It is.
he was named the Grey Cub's most valuable Canadian in 2000.
What?
Yeah, he did. If I heard that correctly, he did stand-ins for Christopher Judge on SG-1, and then came to Atlantis when they needed like someone with the big guns, basically.
Wow. You know, it's interesting because our team won the Grey Cup just recently, like a couple of weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. So, yeah. Damn.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, now I know what the Grey Cup is.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're not a part of the American League, but we have our own league here. And it's obviously not on the scale of American football. But it's funny because our season runs into November. So we have snow, like, on the field, and they're, like, playing in the middle of winter. Yeah. So.
Oh, damn. That is so Canadian. I'm sorry. But
It is. It is. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Short goof. At 44 seconds into the episodes, in the burning rubble, there's an upside-down Oreo wrapper.
Oh my god. One of the cast
Yeah,
was
that's
eating
it.
a snack.
Yeah.
No, you know what? That's John's.
Some
That's just John's Oreo wrapper.
Oh, yeah.
From his
It fell out of his
emery.
pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's it for me.
Well, I was gonna pass it over to Tor. I don't know if you have any fic recommendations. It's kind of a hard episode to do.
Yeah, so there is no, as we like to say, episode tag fic for this one that I could think of off the top of my head. But there was one that I thought suited this episode-ish. So I mentioned in the episode how the team was sort of used as collateral to get Rodney to do repairs. And this is quite a common trope, not only in the show, but also in fic. Like, a lot. A lot of fic have or use this as a plot device. So, one of the most, I think, memorable fics that use this as a device is called Catalysis by Chandri. And we'll link, of course, the fic in our show notes. And the premise is basically Rodney and his team of scientists, including Nico, Zelenka, I think Simpson, are trapped in this tower with these people who are trying to rebel against their government. And they basically threaten the lives of Rodney's science team in order to get him to make certain changes to this tower that will help them politically. And so it deals with this sort of scenario interspersed with Rodney having to go back on Earth on a forced vacation, trying to deal with being put in that position emotionally. So I liked it a lot because I love the trope. I think it's so awesome because you get to see a little bit of emotional turmoil from Rodney and that gooey marshmallowy center that I love outside of the steel exterior. But also it's sort of a mystery because we're not really sure exactly what went on in the tower. And the author gives little peeks into what exactly happened throughout Rodney's stay on Earth. So it's long. It's like 50,000 words or something, but it's quite incredible. It's really well written. The character dynamics are great. If you're a Rodney fan, I highly recommend it. It's really good.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think I'll check that out too when we link it.
Yes.
Okay, and I think that's kind of it. I don't know if any of us want to say ending comments. I don't know if we want to rate it. I feel kind of bad about rating this episode. I just feel like it's going to get kind of... Or what do you think?
I just want to say that, not my rating, but on IMDb, I think it got a 7.2.
Okay, so that's not bad.
That's not bad. Why is it so high? I don't understand.
7.2. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's really rather generous.
Maybe the critics are like us, and they were like, "Oh, but the character moments were so good, so we have to give it a better."
Yeah,
maybe.
I think a 6.2 is more accurate.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Let's say that much. I would rate it lower than 7.2.
Yeah, easily.
Because if you think about it, 5 is like average, right? 5 is like mid.
Yeah,
I was also thinking 5 and... Yeah, I was also thinking of 5 maybe. And I tried to like write down points that I liked. So it was like 1 for Elizabeth because she was cool, 1 for Teyla's fighting, 1 for Wraith Culture, and 1 for Team Goodiness. I was like 4 now, okay, maybe I can up it to 5. For some reason. Because I feel bad giving it. Because I feel like if it was 4, then it would be just... 4 seemed too cruel, but yeah, probably 5.
Yeah.
And that's pretty bad for us, I feel like, because we, like, especially me, I usually rank like 8, 9, 10, or even 9, 10, or 11. But yeah. Yeah.
Fair, that's fair. I think, honestly, I think I'm the mean one. I think I'm going to give it a 4. I think I'll stick with the 4.
Definitely worst episode so far.
Yeah.
I'm going to say yay for character dynamics and moments and acting and the little bit of Wraith lore that we got, like you mentioned, Ash. And nay for general plot nothingness.
Literally nothing. So, that's it. Feel free to check out all of our links down in the description. And be sure to check out Tor's FicRack. And also check out all of our Jumping Puddles social media accounts if you want to see what we're up to or what we sort of, when we update you guys on a new episode or just random things we'll update you guys on. And also check out our personal social media accounts if you want to see what we're actually up to besides our public personas. If you want to see us talking about Stargate or other fandoms, check us out.
Conventions.
And yeah. Conventions, yeah, exactly. Only Ash, but conventions. I have yet to go one day.
GateCon, one day. One year we'll make it all to GateCon.
Yeah.
Yes!
Yeah.
In Canada!
We're putting it out there.
Yeah! My home and native land!
Canada! Be sure to check out our next episode, which is Trinity.
Oh! That's gonna be like 4 hours long.
Gonna have to bring a goddamn snack. Because, yeah, that's gonna be quite a podcast. You will not want to miss that episode.
The drama.
Thanks. The drama. Thanks for hanging out with us today.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, you clowns, listen up. I don't often get a chance to say this, so savor it. Good work, boys and girls. Let's go home.